Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 17th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 32 in the house, and we had some nominations and just some general chit chat, really. I feel like Fridays have been a little bit slower with the AI arena, I think, because with noms, it's not even like, wait, we got to wait until the veto. It's like, well, even after the veto, there's still the AI comp. So there's still a lot left to do before we really start getting into campaign time. So, uh, there's some stuff to talk about today. And with me to talk about it is Chantal. How you doing, Chantal?
I'm doing great. This is my first Saturday this season and probably in a long time. So you're right. I think, with that whole AI thing, I like seeing things happening in the beginning, but it's kind of like it's created a season where they postpone everything. And we're seeing the postponement of Tikor and what's his name, Kimo, making a decision, and I think it's because of like the general way that the season has been going. It's like they make last minute decisions, like that's just how it works. But I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy it's Angela's birthday, and yeah, well, let's get to it.
All right. Well, so as we know, Tucker won the HOH. His plans from the night before, and this is probably why I think that this Friday was even more like slow in terms of game information because he did all of his 101s the night before and locked in his nomination. So we already knew what the plan was here. He plans to nominate Brooklyn, Cam, and Quinn with Brooklyn as his primary target. Cam theoretically as the second target, though as the day goes by, is definitely still looking at Chelsea. The idea for him in the first place would be that Quinn comes down and Chelsea goes up. I would not leave Chelsea completely out of his target list, but she is a bit less likely to actually be voted out.
Yeah, with Chelsea though, like she's in a really dangerous position, and like you could feel that it's like, man, my game just fell apart in an instant. Because she was sitting quite pretty. She had, the first week she didn't have any power, but she was able to kind of get in there with people. People really liked her. Then she's head of household, and it seemed like everything was going her way. And then it just in one vote, like she's on the bottom. Everybody's looking at her. Tucker thinks she's the most strategic and really smart at the game, and she's kind of just walking around the house. Like I feel like she realizes that she's in a bad position. I don't know if she knows how to get herself out of it or what steps she needs to take, because she's just kind of upset, which I get and I understand, but I hope she's able to redeem her position and her friendships and her loyalty, because I got a lot of Chelsea stocks. Come on, Chelsea.
Ooh.
I forgot to like move things around, and I was like, oh, dang it.
So that's the plan. That's the idea. Of course, Tikor and Kimo are still looking to protect Chelsea if possible and get the target onto MJ, or at least the replacement nominee target onto MJ instead of Chelsea, while also ideally protecting Quinn and not allowing Quinn to leave. In their minds, I think Brooklyn or MJ would be either one of them would be a great target because they still do feel like they have a good relationship with Chelsea and a relationship with Cam. He did talk to them a bit today, so there's something there. But they've got that going on.
Well, and with Cam, what happened to I know that Kenny left, so the ball players kind of got disrupted, and then also Cedric and his feud with Tucker. But why is Cam like now getting the crossfires?
With Tucker or with Kimo and Tiko?
I mean, with both, with everybody. What happened? Like, he doesn't seem to talk very much. The only person that he seems to be aggravating is Leah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just he very kind of publicly chose a side with the Tucker thing, which was Cedric and ostensibly Quinn's side, um, Tucker kept trying to, even after that, be like, "Hey, but we can still work together." And Cam was just kind of like, "Sure, bro."
It might just be who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tikor in the meantime, especially between her and Kimo, still is trying to like apologize for flipping. She feels bad. It's we talked a lot about the way in which Tikor and Kimo went about the flip last week, how late it was and how hesitant they were. And for a pair of people that flipped the house structure on its head, and are now at, like, toward the top of the power structure, they are kind of unique in the way that they are now handling the fallout of that, in the sense that they don't feel like power players. They're doing the apologizing.
I know. I mean, I think it's because, especially Tikor, she doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. She has friendships and relationships with these people. And she made promises to them that she wasn't able to let them know, like, hey, this is what we're doing. I've changed my mind. Like, I know it's in the final, like the last minute, I'm going to do something different than what you're expecting me to do. So I get her feelings of regret. But I think she also has to remember she has a friendship with Rubina. Like, that's everybody knows this, that knows that they're really good friends. And I wish she just would just say, like, hey, I know that I didn't tell you guys I didn't tell you guys at all, but Rubina is my friend and I just couldn't do that to her in the end. I'm sorry. That's it.
Yeah. Like, she's like the person in the movie that's, like, really good at fighting people, and, like, she's, like, knocking people out. "Oh, sorry about that." Like, "Oops, whoop, no, I didn't mean to, sorry." But that, like, she's knocking everyone out, though. Like,
I mean, if she like realizes that she's doing this, it could be very powerful. So I have good feelings maybe about T-Core, that maybe she could, realize how good of a position and player that she is. So fingers crossed.
maybe. So that's like genuinely, I think where especially T-Core is coming from, she's going to be apologizing to Chelsea, and having that conversation, and also talking to Brooklyn, and just being like sorry that I did that. But then like afterwards, she's like, I'm not really that sorry.
I think
um,
it's because of Brooklyn. I mean,
yeah,
Brooklyn, she's big bad, and I get it, but she's not making herself really likable amongst a lot of the people, and so I can understand why T-Cars is like, I'm not really that upset. Like,
mhm.
hmm.
I like the big thing for T-Core is that like to be fair, I didn't tell them that I wanted to do this or that I felt bad about this. Like we just kind of like stewed in feeling betrayed by them and then just like betrayed them preemptively in response without talking to them for, which is such a like real life good person thing to feel, but not really how the game tends to operate.
Exactly. She's a good person, and maybe she'll come to her own here as the season goes on.
I feel like, I mean, aside from not telling Quinn that Leah doesn't like him, which is definitely not a good friend thing to do, um, I feel like beyond that, I feel like she'd be a good friend.
But who's she being a friend to? Like, maybe she is being a friend to Leah in the fact that she doesn't want to tell Leah's secrets necessarily, you know?
I don't think that's what's there.
Just trying here.
um, so kind of the result of this, Chelsea and Brooklyn are still obviously upset about their position in the house right now. And they definitely do blame T-Core and Kimo for it, to some degree. More so T-Core, more so Kimo than T-Core at the moment. Um, but I think part of that is that Tucker, will talk about it, is using Kimo as a facade for what he's gonna do. Um, but uh, but they mostly seem to blame Joseph, because Joseph has not made the effort in the same way that T-Core has to like rekindle with Chelsea, Brooklyn, or Cam. He's kind of just abandoned those relationships for the most part, diving in deep with Tucker fairly publicly. Like he, just the night before he was talking to Tucker, like nobody knows that we're actually working together, which is true. Nobody recognizes how close they are. But people are starting to catch on that there's something going on. They just feel like it's Joseph running up to the HOH and sucking up. They don't realize that it's something that had been in the works for a while.
Which I do think it could be a good duo. I feel like Joseph has a pretty good handle on the game. Tucker, I mean, he's quite a wild card, but you can kind of start to predict what he's going to do at this point. Like, he's going to want to make the big show move. He's going to want to have somebody that he's in contention with and he wants to fight. And so you might be able to still manage Tucker a little bit, knowing that he's going to do the most extreme things. So it could be a good smokescreen for Joseph to have Tucker in front of him, doing all like the fancy stuff, and then Joseph can maybe just slide his way into the end. So I don't know if he's actually going to need the people that he hasn't been really nurturing those relationships with anymore, because maybe they're not going to get any power again. Like, who knows?
Who knows? Or they could get power.
Are they good? But then I don't think that they hate him enough to well, maybe they would put him up.
Oh, they very much want to start. So basically what's happening is that they are talking about wanting to target Joseph even over Tucker right now. They're so mad at him. Brooklyn is saying he's ugly. Oh
my God, that was really mean though, how she said that. I was like, I like Joseph, and I think he's handsome, and his mustache is cute.
Well, there you go. So in the meantime, Tucker has been convincing the trio, the three blind mice, as he might call them, the remnants of the Pentagon, that Kimo will be his replacement nominee if he needs one. And so they have all been convinced that Kimo is potentially going to be going up on the block, which has them all very hopeful that like, ooh, well, maybe we can take out Kimo. If Kimo goes up on the block, and somehow they're believing this.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask. I'm like, did Tucker give a reason as to why Kimo would be the person that he's putting up? Because Kimo did just vote to keep his girlfriend in the game, and
Hey,
why?
they're not. It's not like that, Chantele.
They got
they're playing their own separate games.
They sleep in their own separate beds? No. But it's not girlfriend then. Fine. His showmance.
Hey, stop that.
Big brother, stop that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in this particular instance, Tucker's sort of instability in the game is helping him convince people that he's capable of doing anything, including really silly, dumb things like putting Kimo on the block. So because Tucker has done much worse moves in the game, they're like, it's totally believable that he might just throw Kimo on the block. That's Tucker for you.
Okay, fair. He is unpredictable, and so making moves that are not good for his game is something that Tucker could do. So I get why, it looks like the light at the end of the tunnel, like maybe he's going to do something wild that's going to benefit us. But if I thought about it logically, I'd be like, there's no way that he could do it, and then he'd hopefully be surprised.
I also think that like these Pentagon remnants, they still haven't quite wrapped their head around the fact that they are now on the bottom. Like, I think in some ways they are recognizing it, but in other ways they are very much not. And I think that part of that is that they think that Quinn is still the target. So they think that they've still got like a week of buffer, like, oh, good thing Quinn is here for Tucker to go after. But then also then also it's like, oh well, and Tucker might nominate Kimo. Like, we're still in this. there was just a moment of whoopsie daisy. Cedric left. He shouldn't have volunteered, I guess. But we can still run this thing. We just need to get back on track. They don't quite realize that the track is gone. It's been demolished, and they're going to have to build a new track if they want to move forward in the game. They haven't quite realized that yet, in my opinion.
I don't think they're going to realize that soon. It seems like Chelsea is figuring it out throughout this day.
If Quinn comes down and Chelsea goes up, they are going to realize it, I think.
What do you think the likelihood of this happening? Like, will Tucker actually use the veto on Quinn?
I mean, that speaks to something that's happening throughout the day, which is that it does to me feel like Tucker, without much prompting, is starting to turn back around on Quinn in the sense that he's more and more annoyed by him again. It like Tucker was expressing like, do I really want to use the veto on Quinn though? Like it's Quinn. Like he's so annoying. And I think that in a weird way, maybe not a weird way, in a pretty obvious way, the more that Rubina, Tikor, Kimo, and Joseph all try to vouch for Quinn, the more annoyed Tucker gets at Quinn. Because Tucker, Tucker doesn't want other people to try to influence him. He wants to have the answer and tell them. And so when they try to be like, hey, no, we really think you should, bury the hatchet with Quinn. You shouldn't target Quinn. He starts to feel like, what is this, Brooklyn all over again? I knew the truth about Brooklyn and I had to do this about it. So I think the more they try to vouch for him, the worse it will get. I think that Joseph has the best approach here, which is Quinn isn't he sucks at this game. He's not worth going after. That I think makes him feel a bit better.
100%. Like he's all ego in these rivalries and these battles that he wants to go through with people. And so if Quinn is just like a sitting duck and not really able to defend himself, like I just don't know how satisfied Tucker is going to be for taking him out. I think he wants a bigger blood, or if that makes sense.
Yes. Another little thing that's happening, not super relevant at the moment, but it was a big storyline last week. Quinn has finally been told, it was first by Brooklyn actually, that hey, Leah doesn't like you. And he was like, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, I had some vibes. She was like, no, like really doesn't like you. He's like, well, that would be hurtful.
Heartbreaking.
He does not really believe it though. And to be fair, it was such a hard turn that came kind of out of nowhere. So like it's I think somewhat believable that he would be skeptical, especially that it's coming from Brooklyn. And most importantly, there haven't been any details yet. It's just like, hey, just so you know, nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. Everybody thinks that you're weird. It has that vibe, which is like usually a lie. You know what I mean? So he doesn't quite believe it. He's definitely thinking about it. He, of course, asks Tikor and Kimo about it. At which point, we're like, okay, finally. He's like, hey, I've been told that Leah doesn't like me. What do you guys think about that? And they've been talking about telling Quinn for so long, and they still don't.
What's with this? Is it that they don't want to hurt his feelings? Is that they feel bad that they haven't said something sooner, and it would have saved the whole week last week because he could have just put up Leah and they might not be in this position that they were now? Why won't they just tell him?
I mean, I guess at this point, like, Leah is potentially a number for them, but she's not really. I think she's really more a number for Joseph, if anybody at this point. So listen, Quinn is aware of this right now. It hasn't really developed into anything significant at this point. But worth just pointing out that the investigation has started, and now that Quinn has been told at least something, he can now sort of like evaluate his interactions with Leah and maybe get a better sense. But it's also a lot less relevant now than it was last week, because last week it meant she might go on the block. This week it's just like a matter of
Is she gonna
like
vote for me or not?
what even
On the
changes
block.
if Quinn thinks Leah, like, it's not like they really even had any kind of game or personal relationship at this point. So
Why
it's
do you
not
think
super important.
Brooklyn wanted to share this with him?
What, sorry, why did Brooklyn win?
Yeah, like what was the reason right
Gosh,
now? Like why now?
I mean, she's just reeling still.
Okay. Just like, she hates you.
Like, people are just saying, like, the how, because like when things shift, information just comes out, because it's like, why am I holding this in anymore? It
Right.
doesn't matter. That's why, like, Tucker is like, hey, Leah, by the way, Chelsea doesn't like you. Which Leah does believe now, by the way. And is not a fan of Chelsea anymore. So that's what's going on there. Now Joseph, as I mentioned, is still working on Leah. He is the person, I think, who is had been working on Leah. We talked about this a little bit the week before. And we talked about how there was one conversation in particular where they really started to bond, and it was sort of the beginning of the end of Cam and Leah, where Cam was getting jealous and being like, "Well, he's got a belly or whatever." Um, and so there's been a lot of talk of bellies. Tucker was also like, Cedric couldn't be a model. He's got a belly. Um, uh, but, um, so they have had a relationship for a little while, and he is going to continue to work on this. He lets her know about the collective. He is really trying to work to make sure he's pulling her in. This is, I think, very important for Joseph. Leah is is I somewhat similar to Tucker. Like, she can be kind of a volatile, strategic player in the game. It can be hard to predict where she's gonna go, what she's gonna do, and what she's gonna say. But if Joseph is doing well with Tucker right now anyway, so it seems like Joseph is doing well with these kinds of players so far, and so if he's able to hold on to Leah, I think that this is definitely a good path for him.
Now, do you think that Leah's gonna actually fall for him? Because
Oh,
he
no.
just curious because she's looking for, what did she say? She's a chubby chaser or something? Not that
Yes.
he's chubby, but the belly thing, right?
Well, that's what Cam was saying, and Kimo was like, "Yo." Um, I don't think for the record, I don't think there's anything remotely like flirtatious or relationship oriented there. Um, so we do eventually get to, of course, the nominations, and there's no surprise here. It's Brooklyn, it's Cam, it's Quinn. Um, and it's not really that much of a surprise to anyone either. It's still, the hope is that Kimo will go up on the block. Now Kimo is going to start working on getting MJ up as a replacement instead of Chelsea. That is sort of the goal of the week: is can we get MJ up on the block? And so there are various conversations surrounding that goal. But a big part of it is painting MJ as like a Brooklyn minion. And like, hey, she's so like in deep with them. And she's just doing everything Brooklyn tells her to, really trying to paint Brooklyn as the head of the snake, and MJ as like her follower. And then Chelsea, oh, Chelsea's just hanging out over there. Tucker's not really buying this. He's like, the response from Tucker is not, it's Brooklyn and Chelsea. We can't leave the two of them in the game together. They're too dangerous together. He still sees those two as connected. But the attempt is being made to plant this target on MJ, and MJ herself is not really doing any favors to herself. in regards to this.
I think it's also that she's looking like Tyler Crispin like all day, and I'm like, which is, he was
Yeah.
so great at these competitions, and like, he was pretty well insulated, but people then turned on him when he had too many final twos. Like, I don't know, she was giving off Tyler vibes, and I wonder if that like diffused into Tucker's feelings about her as well, or all of them, anyways.
Yeah, she curled her hair.
Did she actually curl it, or did she just let it like dry without straightening
Oh,
it?
that's fair. That might have been. It's because it's normally straightened. I don't know what the natural
I think
lay of
this
it
is her
is.
natural
Okay,
hair texture. I'm guessing, but that's what I think would happen.
that makes more sense. It's just normally straight.
Yes.
But she even talked about that because like I think she was saying that the production prefers her to have the straighter hair because it's better for continuity. Um, so, but listen, let's let them do whatever they want with it. It's not that big of a deal. Um, all right, so that's still the thing that MJ is definitely in this position of she could definitely end up on the block. And if MJ does end up on the block, things could get a little tricky for her. If she's there with Brooklyn, Brooklyn is still in some danger because I do think that she would still be the target. And I think that there's nobody that's really going to be sticking up for her. I do think Quinn would want to keep Brooklyn around. They did have a good conversation the day before or on this day. But Quinn has zero power. And I don't think anybody else beyond Chelsea and Cam would be like sticking up for her, which means that I do think she would probably leave there as long as Tucker still wanted her out and Kimo and Tikor still felt not great about her. But it could get a little sticky because if Kimo and Tikor are trying to retain their relationship with Chelsea and Chelsea is sticking up hard for Brooklyn over MJ and they have to vote against what Chelsea wants again, that could potentially damage that relationship. But not if they just leverage the power they have, which is like, Chelsea, you don't get to pick. Like, we're the ones in charge now. Like, you can follow or you can stay behind. Like, it's up to you. So there's that. If MJ is up against really anybody else, I do really think that there will be a big push to try to take MJ out. So avoiding the block will definitely be high on the priority list for MJ. Although, again, I don't really think that she sees it that way at this point because she is really embedding herself deeply with Brooklyn and Chelsea in the way that they're trying to paint her to be and like really getting hyped up by them and their frustrations. And talking about like, oh, I gotta go talk to Tucker and tell him he's gotta drop Rubina. Like I don't know what it is she thinks she's doing, but it's definitely not gonna be a very good thing for her.
Well, why does she think that she has any power? Because she won the AI comp and she stayed in the game? Did she not realize that she was the target? I don't know. I'm just confused as to why she thinks she has so much power and sway.
I don't think she thinks she has a lot of sway. I just think that like the sort of frustration and entitlement a little bit that Brooklyn in particular has, but also a
Fair.
bit Chelsea. Like that's rubbing off on her. Like she feels like I would say this. I think that because so Brooklyn and Chelsea they had MJ. They completely neglected her last week. After they were blindsided, now they need MJ. And so now they're talking to MJ. They're bringing her. Remember, MJ has not had a solid social position in this house since week one when it was a fake position with Matt. So for the first time in the game, people need her and they're talking to her and they're including her and she feels like she's a part of something. And so now all of a sudden, I think she is feeling like she has a bit more power. And that's why, because a lot of people are like, why is she going to the side that lost the vote flip? And it's because they're the side that will have her. She's willing to go anywhere that will have her. We've been saying that for weeks now. It's just that nobody has bothered to pick her up. And now that Brooklyn and Chelsea need to pick up somebody, they're happy to pick up MJ, even if it's just to throw her right under the bus to take a hit for
Immediately.
them. And so that's kind of where it is right now.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense because it's like you're choosing the wrong side, girl. Like, go, you should be going to butter up Tucker and rat them out and be like, oh, the things that they're saying about you, like something. But yeah, from what you're saying, I understand why she feels the need to, like, that she's being gassed up by them because she feels like she's included. She's part of that team now, and so she's sharing their frustration. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, Joseph, Tikor, Kimo, they're all still trying to protect Quinn with Tucker. But Rubina also even gets in on this. Quinn has a conversation with Rubina explaining why he put her on the block and that he was in this alliance. And it's a good conversation. Again, they've been having some good conversations. Rubina very firmly gets on board the we should protect Quinn train, which I do think ironically is worse for Quinn because I do think that the more that they try to protect Quinn, the worse it will get for him. But that's where it stands. And so we'll see. Again, Tucker was saying, like, I don't really know if I still want to use the veto on him at this point. So, I don't know. I don't know what will happen with this veto. Tucker could literally do anything with it if he won. And I think the feeds just went down to pick players. So it'll be an interesting one.
Yes, I mean, I'd have to say that Tucker is really making this season interesting because we're not really sure what he's going to do. There's a lot of wild moves that could be made, and it's like, which one is he going to pick? Um, I feel like the showman in Tucker is going to want to make this move because he knows that, like, people are like, what? Like, Tucker taking down his mortal enemy, Quinn? Who's he going to put up? Like, so I could see him wanting that more than maybe the fact that people that you're trying to influence him to do that. So right now, I think that he will do that for the big show move if he were to win veto.
Mhm. Now I can tell you that I think since we've been talking, there's been a little bit of conversation this morning about with Rubina and Kimo about concern that Quinn might have leaked that he's not the target. I'm not sure why they think this, but they are concerned that this will get back to Tucker and that Tucker will make Quinn the target now. So
What are you doing?
from my perspective, I did not see Quinn do this. I don't know why he would do it, and I don't know how it would have gotten back to them. This is something that's happening. I'm not able to watch it right now either, so I'm not
Fair.
sure where they think it came from. But I think that
Maybe he's not acting scared enough, or I mean, he got pretty upset yesterday. Um,
okay, yeah, I'm seeing that MJ was telling that Brooklyn told MJ that she thinks that Quinn is a pawn. I did not see Quinn tell her this directly. I might have just missed it.
I didn't see either.
But it sounds like there's some danger here.
I mean, I hope that he hasn't done this, but maybe MJ's playing the game a little bit. I don't know. I really hope not though, because like I have a soft spot for Quinn. I know that the fans are not super plussed about him right now, and that conversation that he has with Brooklyn, where she's like, "The super fans are gonna love us, and like everybody loves us." Not like the casuals, but the people that love this game, we're gonna love both of us. And I'm like, oh, not so much. But I do feel like that Quinn just was not playing super well these past few weeks, and I feel bad that he's hurting here. So I hope that he's didn't screw up his game.
I I'm gonna have to go back and watch the Quinn because I saw the conversation between Quinn and Brooklyn. But I must have missed this, but I'm gonna have to go back and watch that again because I mean, what another just absolute throw if he did that. Um. So, wow. All right. Well,
You're distracted for sure. What's happening?
so Quinn might be in some trouble again now.
Quinn. We're rooting for you. Well, I'm
What
rooting
is
for
the
you.
hold on, just like what is the purpose? Like what is the possible benefit of saying anything to anybody? I was talking about how like this might accidentally leak or somebody might just guess it, but like what is even like what do you possibly get out of this?
Why? I don't know. I don't think maybe MJ guessed by how like that he wasn't being sad enough, or um that MJ's a stronger, or that Brooklyn's a stronger player. So like it makes sense. Like maybe she's just rationalizing it. And it wasn't something that was explicitly said.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Tell us, Kat.
I'll listen, I'll watch I'll watch the conversation. I'll come back tomorrow. I'll let you know what the context was, but I can't imagine a context in which it makes sense to tell Brooklyn that you're a pawn, when it was literally told to you explicitly that you should not tell anybody. It just makes no sense. All right. Well, anyway, uh, it's Angela's birthday.
Woo! They're gonna give her cake, I'm sure. She'll be able to eat something. I know she's a have-not, but I
Mhm,
think they've done that before, I feel like, in the past, where, like, they get to eat a cake or they get to have, like, one little thing on their birthday, but maybe not.
mhm.
Maybe they wanna see Angela, like, spiral.
Yeah, Angela's a have-not. Her birthday is rapidly approaching, and, she is feeling, a bit down, that she feels like, nobody likes her. Nobody wants to talk with her, particularly Tikor and Kimo. She's like, it's pretty obvious that they don't like me and don't actually wanna talk to me or spend any time with me." Which,
Tracks.
yep, that that's Angela doesn't always have right reads, but, yeah, that one's probably true, yeah. So she's gonna kind of like have a bit of a day, have a bit of a moment. She talks to Tucker about it, who tries to comfort her. And she gets to bed pretty early. While she's asleep, they have decorated the house for her birthday. And so hopefully she'll wake up and have a bit of a birthday surprise that gives her a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, and I think it will. Like, I feel like Angela, how she's been playing this game this season is she's kind of putting herself on an island, but then wanting to have close interactions with people, but then like alienating it. Like, she's very interesting with how she's playing. It could be the age difference. She's not necessarily able to connect with some of these people as easily as she would have hoped, and she was playing quite erratically. And uh, I think that she just might have started off on the wrong foot with most people in the game, and so it's kind of hard for her to get her footing back in. But she just has to just be nice and like talk to them, and eventually she's going to be able to build a relationship. I think it's just because she started so erratically that people just were wanting to hang out with her, and so just needs to not necessarily force yourself upon them, but like just be likable, have fun stories, be kind, and I think that she'll be able to make some headway, especially with Tikor and Kimo. Like they're both so nice. I think that eventually they will warm up to her if she's not acting erratic.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, Tikor and Kimo aren't actively trying to be mean to her.
Correct. Yeah.
Uh,
There's sort of
you know,
relation.
they just don't really like, they just don't really vibe, you know? It's like there's not like a lot that you can do there, and I unless you're like a very like charismatic person that is able to like allow people to like feel like they fit in really well. And that's just not Tikor and Kimo. They're very like they're such introverts. They're so like they just like isolate with each other so much. They are just not the people that have it in them to like Be like, "Oh, Angela, yo, come on,
But
get in here."
we could find maybe a way in. Like, I don't know if T-Core brought any of her crochet items. Maybe teach her how to crochet. I don't know. Find a common ground. I think that Angela has lived enough life that she could find some sort of commonality with those two, that they can have their own little special relationship that's not like high fives and like chest bumps.
Hmm. Listen, I think this is that the birthday surprise should be that Angela
It'll
walks
help.
down the stairs and everyone's in the kitchen and they just start going,
Angela, 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 it's your birthday.
yeah. Um, so we'll see about that. So I was gonna talk about Quinn and Brooklyn. They talked about their final two kind of situation. Apparently in this conversation, I was skipping around too much and I missed him saying that he was a pawn.
I didn't.
But
Yeah.
they were definitely talking. I mean, listen, Quinn's timing here couldn't be worse. Not just in telling her that he's a pawn, but also in making in like furthering his final two with Brooklyn, the current target.
I mean, maybe you don't say no to any alliance or whatever, but like, don't hitch your wagon to the person that's going down. Like, Quinn, come on, you should know better than this. But maybe nobody else is really offering him any sort of alliance right now, and so he's just taking whatever he can get.
Okay, Pokemon in the chat says Quinn said all three of them have been told they were. Okay, so I that makes a little more sense that he was
Oh.
because basically and I this actually is ringing a little bit of a bell now. That she was talking about how like, oh well, he said I was a pawn. He was asking for pawns, and Quinn was like, oh yeah, he told me the same thing. Like, oh, we've all been told we're pawns. I guess he might not realize that that is very much doing the thing that Tucker told you not to do. Um, but it's not quite as bad as my initial reaction, which was that
Be like,
it
hey,
was
have a
it
pun.
sounded to me like, yeah, like Quinn was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm not really the target." But instead it sounds like what he was trying to do was say that like, "Oh, well, he told me I was a pawn, but I'm obviously the target." But clearly that by itself though is still breaking the contract and was enough for Brooklyn to have some alarm bells raised and then go and talk to Chelsea and MJ about it. So yeah, still not great. I'll still make sure I go back and see the exact thing again. But whew.
Quinn. Oh, I'm anxious for this whole for today because like veto ceremony, like or like sorry, veto player pick. Like, I wonder if he's going to be in his favor, and how it's going to go down. If it's going to be something in his wheelhouse. I think I just want Quinn to win, save himself, take himself off the block, and just feel better. I have a soft spot for Quinn.
Well, all right. So we alluded to it. Tucker and Rubina, they're still hanging out, whispering sweet nothings.
Sharing a bed.
Tucker's even he's like, hey, I I think you'll fit right in New York. I want you to meet the homies.
Oh, he really likes her. And you know what? Especially since Rubina was kind of feeling a little bit down all day. You know, it's kind of. I think she was feeling like because a lot of people were blindsided in her staying that they don't want her to be there and they don't care that she's there. And she's talking to T-Core about the fact that when she speaks, nobody's really listening to her, and so she's been pretty down. So I do like that Tucker is taking it upon himself to make her feel better.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, for what it's worth, a fairly typical, I think, situation of early stages here of moving forward and a little bit of insecurity of like what is this? This is we're and then on top of it, you're on a TV show and you're playing a game where there's lying, and it's like, how real is it? How much should I be investing? And so she's I think was looking for like what is this, Tucker? And he was like it's come meet the homies is what it is. And so we'll see.
How are you feeling about this non-showmance showmance?
Well, it's not a non-show, man. This is,
Well, then
but
we're not allowed to call it
okay,
one,
yes.
right?
You're turning it back on me here. Uh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think they're in for it. I think that like at this point, like I think they've reached a point where this is going to be probably a thing outside of the house.
I like that. Did you ever clip the sexy saxophone? Because you hadn't watched the episode yet, and I was like, oh my god, he's definitely gonna clip this music.
I need to leave.
I got the second version where it shorts out in the middle.
It's good too. It's good too. I like
Um,
Rubina. I think, and you know, I like that he genuinely seems to like her and wants her to meet the homies. So I like that. But I just hope that she's able to reposition herself so it's not going to ruin her game, because it really was very close to ruining her game, and it was at the stage where maybe there wouldn't be a relationship after, just because they hadn't got to that point yet. So I hope she can fix her position.
it is this weird spot where, like, as long as the AI arena competition continues and it's very winnable for Tucker, like, normally I would say, like, it's totally fine. It's much better to be, like, with Tucker than not with Tucker, in terms of, like, where Rubina stands. But it's worse. It's worse to be Rubina with Tucker while the AI arena competition is on, because it's even more likely that like a shot lands on her, like it very nearly did last week, instead of Tucker, simply because he wins a comp to save himself, and she's the only person that can get it instead. So I think if she survives the next couple of weeks, while AI Arena still is on, I think she's in a good spot to move forward once the AI Arena competition ends
Do we know if it's ending?
at some point.
It feels like it's gone on longer than I was expecting it to.
I mean, it's working. So
I guess.
it's
I
working on
guess.
multiple levels. It's giving good TV on Thursdays, and it's protecting their favorite Tucker. So it's kind of like a two for one kind of thing.
You're right. It's going to go on forever.
All right, so that's basically what's happening. Of course, we're doing the veto draw right now. The veto competition will take place. Right now, I think Chelsea and MJ are fighting for that replacement nominee spot. Will Quinn have the veto used on him? At this point, seems unlikely. Tucker was already thinking about not doing it, and given that it has now spread that Quinn is a pawn, it seems even less likely. The real question is, does the target shift to Quinn from Tucker? Even if it did, I'm not sure the votes are there if the others don't agree, because Rubina, Kimo, Tikor, and probably Joseph would all push back. They'd all want any of Brooklyn or MJ for sure, but even probably Cam. Chelsea is a little trickier. I did forget to mention this one. Quinn did talk to Tikor and Kimo about feeling a little bit upset that they, flipped the vote against what they thought was going to happen without even talking to him first. And Tikor and Kimo expressed to him that, like, hey, we are still looking out for you. We still want to protect you and Chelsea. And so, listen, as we are not going to vote you out no matter what on the block, as long as you're not up against Chelsea, which is such a wild thing to say to him, because he has been doing so much more for them than Chelsea has. So for them to be like, yeah, listen, we know we did that against you last week. We know we put you in a bad spot, but don't worry, we're definitely going to make sure you don't get evicted this week, as long as it doesn't interfere with us protecting Chelsea. Like, who's Chelsea? What do you mean Chelsea?
I, they like her more, on a friendship level, I think, is why Chelsea.
But that's the thing too, though. They
don't
don't
think
even
so?
have that relationship with her.
Why that? I'm like, maybe because she had head of household and she kind of protected them, and so they feel
They
well,
just
also
want to and listen, they should want to work with Chelsea once she's been declawed. With Brooklyn leaving, Cam leaving, MJ leaving, pulling in Chelsea is a great plan for them. They want Chelsea in their final six. That's all fine. But but they dramatically overestimate their relationship with her, and I'm not entirely sure why. But yeah, for me, it's like feel this way all you want, even though I think it's like a misread. Don't tell Quinn. What are you learning from Quinn how to play the game? You don't say these things.
Yeah, just be like, of course we got you. We got you. But they want to be honest, Taran.
Yeah, well, my point is Quinn is not safe, but definitely has a lot of votes to stay in the event that that he stays up on the block. But it is not a guarantee by any means. So we'll see what happens there. Chantel, anything else?
Well, we talked about all the points that I want to talk about the day, but I just I didn't see Cedric's exit interview, but a lot of people have been commenting on how like it was really sad. I really like Cedric, but I really didn't like that he volunteered to go on the block because he thought that he was going to be able to win a bunch of competitions and be able to get himself safe. And that, like, I feel like he needed to learn that lesson. And so, as much as I liked him he was really great for a lot of these people's games, they should have stopped him from volunteering to go on the block. And yeah, I just needed to mention that he's young, so maybe he'll learn. Maybe he'll come back for the next All Stars 3 or something. But yeah, I think that he needed to learn that lesson that in a game of Big Brother, nothing's ever guaranteed, especially your safety and position in the house. And sometimes, the pawns go home. He wasn't a pawn, but you know what I'm saying.
Hmm. Yeah, we talked to Cedric. So if you want to check out our interview with him, feel free to go ahead and do that. And that's what we have for you today. I'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds, including who wins the veto and probably what they intend to do with it. So stay tuned for that. Of course, tomorrow night, we'll have another episode. And we'll be live after the episode to recap what goes down here on the podcast. In the meantime, you can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. Just head over there, hit the follow button. You'll be notified when I go live to talk about the feeds when things are popping off. It's a great way to be notified because listen, you can be on Twitter, you can be on all these other places, but
Can't be
you
on
don't know when
Twitch.
things are actually going down. But if you're following me on Twitch, you get notifications. If I go live and I'm like, yo, it's going down, then you know. So find me over there on Twitch. I'll be live watching feeds. I'll be live watching episodes. So tune in for that. And Chantel, what do you got going on?
So I just talked on Crime Scene this past week. I think the episode will come out on Tuesday. So with Sarah, Mari, and Latanya about a friend of mine's documentary, Daughters. So my friend Natalie was the director for Daughters, and we talked about this amazing documentary that she's been working on for the last 8 years. That it is one of the most amazing pieces of film I've seen in a really, really long time. So if you want to be told a really emotional story, but with cinematic like depth and following these young girls, yeah, you have to check it out. So I believe it will be dropping on Tuesday. The documentary is called Daughters. It's on Netflix. So definitely watch the movie, watch our recap and coverage of that on Crime Scene. So there's that going on. And then you can follow me on Twitter at Shan___Fran or at ShanFranFran on Instagram or on my YouTube channel, Reality Realness with 3 S's, where I'm covering the challenge.
All right. Well, that is what we have for you then today. Thank you all so much for joining us. And I will see all of you next time.